This is the 2022 Ford Mustang EcoBoost Premium, and a few things that are special about this one in behind me. It's got the EcoBoost High Performance Package, so we've got a little bit of a bump to the performance there. We've got some great features such as improved braking performance. We also do have an upgraded rear sway bar, larger radiator, and some other things we're going to kind of break down as we get underneath the hood and do a few other things. Now, I do want to say thank you so much for helping to support the channel. I went over 10,000 subscribers recently, which is actually kind of mind-blowing thinking about it. So if you want to continue to be part of this YouTube journey of mine, subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your social networks. But this specific video is strictly going to be on the EcoBoost Mustang. If you want to know what's going on with the GT version, check down below in the description for that walkthrough instead. And if you're looking for something technical, like you want to know exactly what's going on to the steering wheel and cluster, or you need help with the media screen, so setting up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, things like that, check down below because I've put together some crazy comprehensive technical walkthroughs on top of that. But let's unpack this EcoBoost Mustang and figure out what's going on with the 2022 model. I love the body styling of the Mustang, especially when we get into some of these nicer looking rims. I gotta say though, my favorite, if you look at the GT Performance Package, those rims, absolutely beautiful. Not to say that these things don't look nice though, because we do have this gorgeous rim that's also paired with a Pirelli P0 tire, so a summer rated tire. And that's because this specific Mustang has the EcoBoost High Performance Package on there. Now, there is one other package that's available that this one doesn't have. That would give us the Magneride damping system and then a torsion differential. So the torsion differential changes up the complete dynamics of the ride, and then Magneride is the same thing because this thing technically does have upgraded front springs, I should say. But Magneride essentially is going to give us magnetic particles in our suspension system, so it helps with body roll. So when you're hugging a corner, left, right, whatever the case may be, rather than your body kind of looking like this, it's going to be a little bit more upright. So whether you decide to go for that one or not is going to be your choice. One of the other guys that's commented on a few of my videos, Matt, he was telling me that he'd rather go for the active valve exhaust and a few other things over the Magneride. So you get your, whatever choice you want. There are so many different ways that you can configure this thing, and it's kind of mind-blowing. Because this one is the 201A, so the high package EcoBoost Premium. So we've got the 12.3-inch digital cluster screen, which looks absolutely beautiful. A lot of other standard technology inside of it on top of that, which we'll get to when we hop inside. But the Mustang itself, the EcoBoost, has a few different options for the tire size. We're 17-inch up to a 19-inch with a series of different rim choices and tires and things like that, just depending on what you go for. Then as always, you always have the option of doing something aftermarket. So if you want to do upgrades yourself, you can definitely do that. But great styling, and because this is the high performance package, we do have this high performance badge along our driver passenger door. But a few things looking at the differences in the 21 versus the 22 Mustang. As always, there are a few color changes, like we've got the eruption green and the mischievous purple, which is kind of Thanos color, if I have to say, but it's kind of an interesting one. And then one thing specifically about the EcoBoost, we don't have the option for fog lamps on the EcoBoost Premium anymore, so that went away in the 2022 model year. But at the same time, fog lamps, I think I've maybe driven with them once before. So it's gonna be a matter of preference. If you really want those fog lamps, you could wire some things aftermarket or look at the GT as an option instead. But speaking of the GT, because this one has the high performance package, the front end of this thing, it does borrow a little bit from that GT. So we do have that front splitter, which is going to help create a little bit of added downforce. Very, very useful if you're taking this thing on the track. The grille inside of this thing is amazing. We do have our pony along the driver's side in the front there, which looks really sharp. And one thing you might just be able to see, I'm gonna flip some B-roll up there, we've got the larger radiator, and that's because this is the high performance package of the vehicle. You could definitely do something aftermarket if you want to, but one of the bigger benefits of the larger radiator is it keeps things cooler. It's important because this thing's a 2.3 liter turbocharged engine. So if you've ever driven your Mustang in the wintertime, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but if you have, you've probably noticed improved performance. And that's because this beast of an engine, that 2.3 liter, its turbocharger runs hot. So because we've got cooler air getting forced under the hood, it's going to lead to improved performance overall, which is amazing. And so getting underneath the hood is pretty straightforward. We've got a latch just to the left-hand side of our pedals. We're just gonna pull that to release. We've got a little release in the middle there. So we just pull that all the way over to the left and lift up. Not on hydraulics, but at the same time, it's easy enough to lift that thing up. Now, the GT, well, the Mustang, I should say, the GT, you've got the option for that 5-liter V8, but the EcoBoost Mustang is the 2.3-liter turbocharged. We do have two different setups available, so it's just going to be either your regular EcoBoost or this thing, the High Performance Package. A little bit of a difference in power. The regular EcoBoost pushes out 310 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque, while this upgrade gives us 330 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. So a little bit of a difference there performance-wise, but here's the kicker. As good as that performance is, we do have the option either way, so either the regular or the high performance package, to look at an upgraded ECU, so an ECU flash essentially, a stage 1 upgrade. May potentially void your warranty depending on where it's done, but if you're going to be doing any sort of work to your Mustang, you can get some really good performance boosts out of just that simple ECU tune. Like there is one that you're looking at where on average you're probably looking between 40 and a 50 pound-feet of torque upgrade as well as horsepower. It's like 30 to 40 horsepower gains. So if you're looking for really good performance out of this thing, the EcoBoost Mustang is amazing. And don't get me wrong, it's not quite as powerful as the 5-liter V8 that we're going to find in the GT, but if you're brand new to the Mustang world, you want something a little bit more economical in fuel as well because of the crazy high gas prices right now, the EcoBoost Mustang is a good choice. I say this all the time, easy access to a few things, so we can easily top up our fluids, we can easily change our oil if we want to, but always recommend make sure you take this thing in for regular maintenance. Like, it actually kind of blows my mind how many people don't regularly maintain their cars. So the downside of doing that is that you could actually void your warranty. As I see a bike passes by there, I think that's the first one of the season. That's amazing, and it makes sense because it is like 13 degrees out right now, Celsius, in Canada, which is fairly nice all at the same time, but I do love the look and layout here. Now, one other thing to point out, we do have this black painted strut tower brace right over the engine there, and it's got a high performance badge right in the very middle, which looks fairly sharp. Taking a peek along the driver's side door. So we do have like a little hamburger style button there. So we can press that if we want to lock the doors. And then because this one has intelligent access, all we need to do is slide our hand in order to be able to unlock. But take a peek on the inside here. Absolutely beautiful, but we'll get to the inside in a second. Taking a peek along our driver's side door, we do have a series of different buttons there. So you can just kind of make it out, but we've got our handle, we've got 3 individual seat memory buttons, just because of the packages that this vehicle has. We've got our unlock and our lock button. We do also have our window control there, so you can kind of see exactly what's going on as we go. So we've got our side view mirror control, window up and down. We've got our handle, and then a little bit of storage on top of that. Now we do also have our Mustang scuff plate there, so really, really nice look. The seats themselves might be a manual or a power adjust, just depending on the version that you've got. And that's going to be forwards, backwards, up and down, and then for our lumbar support. Moving the backrest forwards and backwards, we actually just have to go to the left-hand side there in order to make it happen. But as we start to hop inside, so just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel there, series of different options available. We can either increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen and media screen. We can figure out what's going on with the running lamps. I always just recommend keeping it in the auto setting on the far right-hand side, and it's just a hassle-free way to remember to keep your lights on as you go. And taking a peek, a few other things to point out. So we do also have our little release there, so a little hidden compartment, store sunglasses, whatever the case may be there. And we also do have a trunk release. If we ever need to get under the hood, we do have a release just to the left-hand side of the pedals there. So all we're gonna do is take this, we're just gonna give it a pull in order to open up. Now this one also is the 6-speed manual transmission, which is why we've got 3 individual pedals there. Obviously, if you were just in the automatic, you wouldn't have that far pedal on the left side, which is your clutch, and you might just be able to make it out there. Let me zoom in a tiny little bit. But we do also have our ambient light. And because we're in the premium, so it's my color, which means we've got the flexibility to change the color of the light out if we want to. So first impressions of the interior, I absolutely love the Mustang, especially when we get into the premium. And on top of that, when we get into the 201, so the 201 EcoBoost or the 401 GT, because that gives us this fully digital 12.3-inch cluster screen, which looks absolutely beautiful. But if you're looking for an in-depth look at the steering wheel cluster and that media screen, check down below because I've put together some crazy comprehensive videos already. But overall, like I said, impressions of this thing are great. The seats themselves, this is the Ebony interior, and it's got this like micro white stitching, like a gray type of stitching on it, which looks fairly sharp. We also do have the option for the headrest, which is 4-way adjustable. So we could lift this thing up, but listen to this. So we do also have that forward adjusting headrest. So 4-way, so forwards, backwards, up and down to create even more stability for your neck if you need it. There are a series of different options for not only the interior colors, but also the exterior. As I mentioned earlier, there are a few new ones, so that mischievous purple or the eruption green, which look fairly sharp. But inside of the Mustang, the interior is great. We've got this like spun aluminum look towards the dash. And because this is the high performance package, we also do have that high performance 2.3 liter badge right along the very top. The Bang & Olufsen badge along the top is great. And right underneath that, we've got our oil pressure and then our vacuum gauge on top of that. So overall, great look. Feature set is amazing. We've got all of our standard vents and things like that all over the place. And because this is the 6-speed manual transmission, we don't have any sort of paddle shifters. But if we were in the 10-speed automatic, the paddle shifters would be there. But feature-wise, this is great performance inside of the 6-speed. I absolutely love it. Not quite as responsive, obviously, as the GT, but the EcoBoost is really, really nice all at the same time. So we're going to test drive it at the end of the video. But look-wise, feature-wise is great. We've got our highlight pony badge right along the middle there. And left stick, we've got a button on that tip of that one to turn our lane keeping system on or off. We can flash our high beams out. We can control our windows, or our windshield wipers, I should say, using the stick on the right-hand side. Now, across the entire Mustang lineup, the steering wheel is going to be a manual adjust by our left knee, or by our right knee, by opposite left, by our right knee. Telescopic, so in, out as necessary. Click that bad boy to lock it into place. Now, inside of the Mustang, we will at least have our regular cruise control. Because this is the premium, the packages that this one has, it's got the adaptive cruise control system as well. This is a 6-speed manual transmission with adaptive cruise, so I personally don't think I'd be using this whatsoever, but it is there as an option. So if you do want to use it, they're available. I just personally wouldn't use it inside of a 6-speed. But if you're, going to be just riding in second or third gear anyways and stop and go traffic, you do have that as an option. But it is a very, very simple system. Along the right-hand side, we've got a voice command prompt, so we can change songs, radio stations, and we can navigate using our voice through this Sync3 screen. And we've got a series of other options in order to navigate through this cluster screen. So we've got a lot of in-depth settings. We can answer or hang up on a phone call, change our media very easily. We've got our navigation. So we can press that nav button in order to be able to navigate to different things on this middle screen. One thing to note, we won't have a map show up on that middle screen. We'll have the directions of where we need to turn, but it still does communicate between this Sync3 screen. So we can set up a route on the cluster screen, and then it'll also show up in that media screen instead, which is amazing. Now we do also have our pony mode, which gives us a few unique options. So I'm gonna flip you around so you can take a peek at what that looks like. So pony button, really, really nice, and there are so many different options that are available here. So starting off, we've got our My Mode and Show Status. So as you can see there, we've got a few different options that are available. So as we use the toggle shifters to go through different modes, as you can see there, we've got our Normal versus our Sport Mode versus our Track Mode versus our Drag. So each mode, as you can see there, will do something different. We can actually customize this thing so that it does look different for every mode, or we can have it stay the same for every mode. So we've got a few different options there. Easily press back there. So we're going to, let's just save this bad boy out. Boom, there we go. Jump back into our pony, and we've got our exhaust mode. So a series of different options for our exhaust. Let's hop outside and you can listen to what those sound like. So it is nice that we've got so many options. We've got our quiet mode, normal, sport, track. We've also got our quiet start, so we can toggle the system on, and then we can set what time the quiet exhaust is going to be on. This is only going to be the option if you've got the active valve exhaust. So if that's not in your vehicle whatsoever, this option just won't be there. You can't, could you do something aftermarket? Technically yes, but it's not going to be the same as if you were to get the factory active valve exhaust. So if you want that system, get it from the time of ordering from the factory, because it's a crazy expensive amount to get something that's not as good as the factory option. We've got some track options, so we've got our acceleration timer, brake performance, line locks, lap timers, different start options, so for different countdowns and things like that. So if you're taking this thing on the track, we've got some killer apps that are available. And same idea, so we've got some different options for our gauges. Move back from there into our pony mode, and we can configure your gauges. So if you want to show the air-fuel ratio, or oil temperature, oil pressure, and a few others. So you've got 3 individual options that are available there, so select whichever ones you like. Let's go vacuum, and then we'll move back out and show gauges. Boom. So we do have the option of showing individual gauges there, which is definitely a nice thing. And as you saw there, we've got the flexibility to customize which gauges show up. So unbelievable. I love the active valve exhaust, and it actually does sound surprisingly nice inside of the EcoBoost. Not quite as mean as you're going to find inside of the GT, but it is there. Now, one cool thing about that active valve exhaust is that there are different companies that also have exhaust tips to change up the sound, so muffler tips, in order to work in conjunction with the active valve system. So if you're looking for something a little bit different sounding and you've got active valve, just knowing there are some, I know Borla is an example, where you do have the flexibility of changing the sound out if you want to, which is amazing. But overall, I said styling is great. We've got our metallic highlights all over the place. Someone on the GT video had messaged and said that they think it'd be interesting to see a wood grain. What are your thoughts on there? Like, do you think a wood grain inside of this would work? Like, I think it'd be different. Like, carbon fiber would look great, but at the same time, I like the look and layout and the setup here, but it's just a matter of preference at the end of the day. The Sync3 media screen is the same one that we're going to find in last year's model. So it's got support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay that are wired. So we do need to have our USB cable plugging in order to be able to do it. But if your Mustang doesn't have factory navigation, you still do have the flexibility of using Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze directly through this middle screen, which is amazing. The factory navigation is fantastic on top of that. It's very responsive, and the system itself is amazing. We've got a volume rocker, tuning rocker, a CD player inside of this thing, which is, I thought that was a GT exclusive, so seeing it here is kind of neat. We do have heated and ventilated front seats, which is amazing. There's a caveat to that, but let me just kind of bask in this for a second. Beautiful day. When it gets a little toasty, leather seats, having that cooled seat is unbelievable. And if you're going to be driving your Mustang year-round, having those heated seats is also amazing. Now, you will find the heated seats in some lower versions of the Mustang. We said this is the 201A, which is why we're more or less fully loaded, but the ventilated seats are there if you don't get the Recaro seats as an option. So if the Recaro seats are a must-have for you, you will not have the heated ventilated functions whatsoever. It's just not available in the Recaro seats. So if that's a must, just go in knowing you're not going to get those features. But, I mean, if you're going to get Recaro seats, you're probably tracking your Mustang anyways, which means that you want to save some weight from all of those different features. So if that's a must, just knowing that that is available as an option. Now, we've got a series of different climate control settings, and because of the version of the Mustang we're in, so if you go for the 100 EcoBoost or the 300A, so the base package EcoBoost or GT, you won't get any sort of toggle switches whatsoever. So the toggle switches are going to be exclusive to the 101 and up in the EcoBoost, and then the 301 and up inside of the GT. But the toggle switches are amazing. We will at least be push button start across the entire vehicle lineup, but our toggle switches let us turn on our 4-way blinkers, we can turn our traction control on or off, we can navigate between either normal, comfort, or sport steering, and then a series of different drive modes. We've got I'm going to do it from memory because the car is off right now, but we've got our normal, we've got our sport steering, we've got track as well. So there are a series of different options that are available there. Actually, I'm going to flip this thing on because I know there's one mode that I'm missing there, and I'm just going to feel bad if I don't say it. So normal, sport mode, we've got our track, and then drag. How can I forget drag strip? And then we've also got our snow and wet mode. So a few different options that are available, but a lot of different options. Now, if you don't care about any of this other stuff, you do have the flexibility of just going for one of the base Mustangs instead to save yourself a few bucks. But I can pretty much guarantee if you go for the 100 EcoBoost or the 300 GT, you're probably going to want to upgrade in the next couple of years. So something to think about. But I mean, at the same time, people have gotten away with their base EcoBoost Mustangs with like tens of thousands of kilometers on them. Now moving down from there, we've got a single USB port, so regular USB, and then there also is a 12-volt power point there. So if you need to plug in some things, you've got the flexibility to do it. We've got a fully removable tray, and this one is the 6-speed manual transmission. So we've got our 6 main gears. Top left is going to be a reverse gear. We just need to pull this little piece up in order to be able to, and we'll throw the clutch in order to move into our reverse gear. So it's very straightforward to change out. We do have our manual parking brake, and that's going to be the same across the entire Mustang lineup, regardless of whether we're the 10-speed or the 6-speed. Now, one thing to point out, with the key fob, inside of the cup holder, so we've got 2 cup holders here that do feature the ambient light, which also is the My Color. So you can set up your own unique color if you want to, but this whole tray inside of this thing is actually fully removable. And one of the cool things about removing the tray is, if your key fob ever dies and you need to get home, all you have to do is take your cup holder out, so that there's a little tray there. You take that out and you just put your key fob into that little piece. So there's a little black piece or a little cutout there. You just drop your key fob in there and you'll be able to start this thing up. Now the key fob also does feature a few great things. So we've got our emergency access key, so we can get into the vehicle in order to be able to drop our fob in order to start this thing up if we absolutely need to. But it is there as an option. You can call Ford roadside assistance as well. And that's one of the benefits of being a Ford owner is Canada or the States. If your vehicle ever dies, it's giving you trouble, whatever the case may be, there's an 800 number that you can call. And then I think it's a 5 years, so it essentially covers off your powertrain warranty. So that 5-year, 100,000 kilometer in Canada. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you a tow to a local Ford dealer in order to help you fix up your Mustang if anything, or your Ford or Lincoln vehicle if anything ever happens. So it's great. I want you to think of it almost like CAA or AAA down in the States, where with the exception of it's not tied to the driver, it's tied to the vehicle. So if anything ever happens to your Ford or Lincoln owned vehicle, you're covered off through Ford roadside assistance. But styling inside of this thing is great. We do have our little armrest there that has a few more power points. So we've got another USB port and another 12-volt power point back there and a little bit of storage. So not a ton, but I can get about wrist deep, which is kind of a nice thing. Now, as we start to move up overhead, this one does feature an auto-dimming rear view mirror. We've got some cabin control lights. This one does also have the garage door opener. We've got a business card holder, vanity mirror that also features lights. And then this thing can extend out. And like realistically, like I'm 6 feet tall, so I would pretty much be driving this car like this. And this blocks all the sun that's potentially going to hit my eyes. So if that's something that you're concerned about, just go in knowing you're going to be covered off with this version of the vehicle with the visor the way it is. So it's going to block all the sun potentially hitting your eyes. But overall, this thing is nice. Now, we don't have the option for a sunroof inside of the Mustang whatsoever, because you've got the option for either the Fastback, which is the hardtop, or the convertible, which this is not. So if you had the convertible as an option, you'd be able to obviously open and close as necessary. And if you were in the Mustang Mach-E, so the electric, fully glass roof, which looks unbelievable. Inside of the glove box, so we've got our main glove box there, we actually have a little hidden component. So we can pull this little yellow tab, so we push it forward and it's going to pull down, and we've got a little component there where typically we're going to store our owner's manual. Because the Mustang is still on Sync3, we still do have a physical owner's manual, but the second this bad boy gets upgraded to Sync4, that manual is going away. And that's the same way it is on a lot of Ford Lincoln vehicles that also do feature the Sync4 media screen. But overall, styling inside of this thing is great. Like I said, we do have a back seat where those seats can fold down, so you can kind of see it there. But I want to show you something. I'm going to show you how we can get into the back seats and what happens when I do. So, right along the side, we can just pull the one. So the one we're going to use to adjust our backrest, we can pull that if we want to in order to go forward. But we also have the option, there's a lever just behind our driver's seat and the passenger side where we can lift that in order to bring the seat forward on top of that. But with the seat up, back seat up there. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is tight. This is ridiculous. All right. So I'm 6 feet tall and this is me literally upright right now. So I have got next to no headroom up here. So it's like a teeny little bit uncomfortable for me. So if you're a little bit taller, could you sit back here? Maybe. If you're okay kind of driving like this, because if the seat was back, This is just not comfortable whatsoever. But if push came to shove, you needed to get people back here, you absolutely could. I'd probably just be laying back here like this instead, like, help me. I feel like the Fly, like Jeff Goldblum style right now. It's kind of ridiculous. But I mean, you have kids that are younger, they'll be able to fit back here, shorter friends, whatever the case may be. Or if people drew the short straw, you just don't like them, you could technically get 4 people in this vehicle if you really needed to. But one cool thing, if you've got kids, we do also have our latch system. So anchors and tethers and things like that. So you can have front-facing, rear-facing child seats inside of this thing, and they'll be able to fit. Rear-facing, a little bit tight. Front-facing, not going to be able to have any issues getting a child in the vehicle whatsoever. But overall comfort and styling this thing is actually not too shabby. Like, even though I can barely fit in the seat, it's got a decent amount of cushion to it. I wouldn't want to go on crazy long distance trips in it, but it is there as an option. One thing to point out, inside of the Mustang Mach-1, we do have the option for a rear seat delete. So if you're going to be taking it on the track, you've got that option directly from the factory. And then obviously if you're doing it aftermarket yourself, you can just rip these seats out if you really need to. Filling up fuel inside of the Mustang is really straightforward. So along our driver's side, we've got a capless system. Just insert, fill up, and you're good to go. Fuel quality is an interesting conversation. And if you've seen any of my other Mustang videos, if you've ever seen any of my other Mustang videos, I always talk about it. Regular 87 gas is the minimum manufacturer's recommendation across the entire Mustang lineup, with the exception of the GT500, but that's a beast in and of itself. But for the EcoBoost as well as the GT, regular 87 fuel is all you technically need to use. But if you want true performance out of this thing, so the best possible performance, 91 or a 93 is the ideal fuel that you want to use. If you're even contemplating putting this thing onto a track, 91 or 93 is absolutely where you want to go, and you might even want to look at upgrading your rear axle ratio. With our rear axle ratio, that is going to be the number of times that the drive shaft has to rotate in order for the wheels to spin once. We've got a series of different options available inside of the Mustang, and inside of the EcoBoost, the highest available option is the 3.55 torsion differential. So it is great performance out of that one, but it does require the high performance handling package. That's what I was looking for. So that's going to give us the torsion differential, but the standard diff inside of this thing is also pretty good. Not quite as good as torsion though. But having said that, you've got aftermarket options that are available. Like, we could go up to a 410 or higher if you really needed to. So if you're taking your vehicle on the track, you want to look at a higher option. If you're never going to be tracking your Mustang, the base option, so the 331 or the 355, depending on your build, would be more than enough for you. But you will notice a little bit of an improvement in performance, so that the acceleration specifically, when you've got a higher rear axle ratio. So something to think about. And one other thing that you won't be able to see, so let's roll some B-roll underneath. We do also have an upsized rear sway bar as part of the high performance package. And over and above that, we've got unique tuning. So our chassis, E-Pass tuning, things like that, which again leads to that overall improved performance inside of this thing. But I've said it a few times, like, even if you don't go for the high performance package, you still will get really good performance out of this thing. You could always do aftermarket upgrades if you want to, but one thing I have noticed that there are drivers that typically go from the EcoBoost and within a couple of years they want to upgrade to the GT. So you will get good performance out of this thing regardless, and there's always the option to upgrade if you want to. Whether you're doing something aftermarket yourself, DeSilva Racing locally in Durham region has some great options available, and there are all sorts of performance shops located throughout North America and internationally that you can go to for performance parts and upgrades and things like that, just depending on your budget and what you want to accomplish out of your ride. Towards the back end of the Mustang, great styling. Inside of just the regular EcoBoost, we will just have a small deck lid spoiler, but because we are in the high performance package, we've got a spoiler that's up a little bit higher in certain parts, like specifically towards the end. We've got these little flare-outs along the top there. Now, we don't have many other options for the spoiler directly from the factory, but there are so many options available aftermarket if you wanted to change up the dynamics there. You have to come up with a good balance though, because the larger the spoiler, more downforce, but you could also create a lot of chaos in your car if you go too big all at the same time. But this thing does have a nice look. We've got our sequential taillights there, which look amazing lit up. We do have our pony badge along the back, which mirrors the one that we found inside of the grille on the front end. You will always have the backup camera regardless. And then depending on the trim level, We do also have the reverse sensing system that's available. So packaged options that are available to give us those reverse sensors. We do have our quad tip exhaust on top of that, which looks fairly sharp. Now, one thing you may not know about your Mustang, if you want to get into the trunk of it, you could technically do it on the key fob, but if we look just underneath, so right underneath that badge, right above where our license plate would be, there's a little button there. So all we have to do, push that in order to get inside. Let's have a peek. Cargo dimensions for the vehicle are going to be showing up, so we actually have a surprising amount of space in the back of the Mustang. Now, one thing to point out, the seats actually can be folded down as well if we've got the Fastback version of the vehicle. So we wouldn't have the option to fold the seats down if we were in the convertible, but because this is the Fastback, we've got the flexibility to do it. So just on the inside of the vehicle, there's a little lever we're going to pull, and that's going to fold the seats down. But we do actually have a surprising amount of space when we've got that second row folded down. All right, taking a peek inside the trunk of the Mustang, we don't have anything along the left-hand side whatsoever, but along the right side, we do have a subwoofer that is available. Now on top of that, lifting this tray up, this thing technically is fully removable, so if you need to clean it off, you could do it. And this one does have the inflator kit. So we've got our Goop inflator kit, things like that. If you want the mini spare tire, you could technically get it. You have to get it at time of ordering from the factory. You could look at doing something aftermarket on top of that, but there's a caveat to it because not every build gives you the flexibility of getting that mini spare tire. The GT Performance Pack and the EcoBoost High Performance Pack are one of those scenarios. So you won't be able to get the option for the mini spare tire from the factory if you opt for those packages. All right, so one thing to point out, so this is the 6-speed manual transmission. Inside of the Mustang, we've got the option for either the 6-speed manual or the 10-speed automatic, and that's going to be the same whether we're in the GT or in the EcoBoost version of the vehicle. Oh, a little choppy. Forgive me. This is nice though. It's always like when you drive something new, you're like, okay, where is the clutch going to pick things up as we go? Apparently it's a little bit higher up than I was expecting. It's nice though all at the same time. But this thing, it's comfortable. I do love, ventilated seats. Oh yes. Ventilated seats is an option inside of this because of the package options that we've got. When you get into the EcoBoost and the GT Premium, we've got our heated ventilated seats standard. One thing to note, if you go for the Recaro seats, you are never going to have heated or ventilated seats whatsoever. Even if you're in the GT Performance Pack, or the GT, I should say, or if you're inside of the EcoBoost Premium. So never gonna have those seats as an option whatsoever. This sounds really nice though. I am really surprised. You know what, I'm gonna do highway on the way back. I wanna get a little bit more sound of this thing. This is really nice. I'm kind of surprised right now. This is so nice. So nice. Now one thing, this thing doesn't even have the handling package that's optional inside of this Mustang. So, I mean, the handling package itself is unbelievable. Like, it's such an amazing system, but this one doesn't have it. So what, with the handling package, you need the high performance package inside of the EcoBoost, but what that's going to do is it gives you the torsion differential, so the 355 torsion, but it also gives you the Magneride damping system. And Magneride is all about body roll, baby. That's what it's all about. It's about your body rolling. All right, so what it does is, rather, like, as you're taking aggressive turns, left, right, whatever the case may be, rather than your car body roll kind of looking like this, it's gonna be a little bit flatter. So it just feels better all around. So good feel overall, good comfort. I've been in a Mustang with the Recaro seats before. They're good. If you're gonna be tracking your Mustang, that's when I'd really think about the Recaro seats. But like I said, giving up the heated ventilated option, I don't know if I'd be able to do it. I wish Recaro would get that heated ventilated option. I think it would be an amazing seat setup, like an amazing system. It would be fantastic. So if you guys are listening, get the heated ventilated option, just build that in. I think people will pay for it at a premium if they want it. But I mean, the caveat to that is that obviously if you've got the Recaro seats and you're tracking your Mustang, you probably won't care about the heated ventilated option anyways, but it still is pretty nice to have. All right, I think I'm good. Love it, love it. Oh, that is nice. Oh, that is really nice. All right, that's cool. So 6-speed manual definitely does not disappoint. I'm not gonna lie, like I've been in the automatic a little bit more in the Mustang recently shooting videos, and like I'm kind of missing the paddle shifters, but my regular car is a 6-speed anyways, so being in a 6-speed again, it's nice. It is nice having that option. One thing to note, the 6-speed is cheaper than the 10-speed automatic. It's just the transmission setup, systems, etc. If you want the cheapest version of the Mustang, the 101A EcoBoost is probably what I'd recommend if you just want to get into a Mustang. If you want better performance out of it, the GT301A, even better. So it's ultimately going to depend on what your budget is, but the performance inside of this thing, let's listen to that sound. Beautiful, beautiful. Formula Ford Lincoln, they are one of the main dealerships that I work with, but these guys are fantastic, like absolutely fantastic to work with. They have a series of different vehicles that are available all the time, Ford and Lincoln, and they're part of a larger dealer group. So they also do have a Jaguar Land Rover dealership, Mitsubishi, and a few others. So if you're looking for something specific, definitely check them out. But that was a look at the 2022 Ford Mustang EcoBoost, specifically the High Performance Package. What did you think? Performance-wise, sound-wise, I was really, really surprised at how well this thing handles and what it can accomplish. But if you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. And as I mentioned, if you're local to Durham region, the GTA, or anywhere in Ontario really, reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, drop a comment below, and let's collaborate on something. I want to kind of grow this channel into something different and a little bit more unique, and I want to work with some other creators. So reach out to me if you've got a YouTube channel, you're an aspiring creator, whatever the case may be. Let's see what we can make happen. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your social networks. And until I see you next time, take care. So we've got a little latch just by our pedals. Now, a few things that are special about the one in behind me here. It also has, I haven't even told you anything about it.